Hello there, Sunny Hostin.
Hi, Brian.
Good to see you here in the Behind the Table studios.
I know it's been a minute, right?
It's been a minute, but you're back, and I'm thrilled. We had a great show today. We had Senator Amy Klobuchar.
Yes.
One of our more frequent guests over time, but It's been a minute.
She's a good messenger, though.
She's great. And the theme of what she really had to say today was not giving up.
Yeah.
I think that's right. What did you make of her message?
Look, I think there are some of us, like the 92% of Black women that voted not necessarily in our self-interest, but voted for the collective, that are tired, that are feeling these attacks on diversity, equity, and inclusion, that are feeling these attacks on our communities, and are looking and saying, look at what you voted for, because that voting constituency is dragging us all down. And so I think that there certainly is was a time for rest, but it's been, a month, and it's gotten so chaotic and it's gotten so destructive that I think now is the time to organize. Now is the time to have an organized message. Now is the time to just educate people on what is behind the facts. I think our job, at least on The View, is to definitely be fact-based, but to explain the facts to people. At least that's how I perceive it. I don't necessarily think it's an opinion. I think it needs to be informative. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what she was talking about. Like, when you hear about federal employees being cut, yeah, they cut the wrong people haphazardly. And so bird flu, is rampant, and you're going to cut the people that are doing the research to prevent the bird flu. You could get sick and God forbid, be hospitalized because of that.
The speed of everything, I think, is very unnerving.
Well,
I think
the speed and the sloppiness of
Right.
it. It's very sloppy. It's very messy. But to be clear, this is what he promised to do on day one.
Yeah, I think I'm not surprised it's happening. I'm surprised
No.
it's happening in what feels so haphazard.
Yeah. Well, when you hire incompetent people and your goal is to destroy government for the purpose of corporate profit and basically privatize government or take advantage of government contracts and bankrupt governments, then this is how it's done, and this is what happens. I mean, it was outlined in Project 2025, which, I don't know how much more I could have said from at least this platform and just amongst friends about what
and you
was
weren't alone.
contained
A lot
in
of
it.
people were talking about it, but
he's
he was
doing exactly what Project 2025 projected the plan to be.
Yeah. We mentioned James Carville in
Yes.
Senator Klobuchar's segment, and the reason we did that is because he said that Democrats just need to wait and see what happens. I know you feel differently about that, but he also predicts that the Republican Party will implode in the next 30 days.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
I do agree that with President Trump's approval ratings being lower at this time in the administration than the past 70 years of the presidency, I think that's a pretty big signal. 70 years.
Is that
Talking
accurate?
about
Wow, 70 years.
Yes, it's a Gallup poll, I believe. So when I look at that, and I look at all these town halls, and I look at all these posts where people are saying, I voted for Trump and I just lost my job, I think many people didn't think it would affect them. Now that we're seeing that effect, and we're seeing people at town halls saying, we didn't vote for this, the midterms are not, very far away. And as Senator Klobuchar made very clear, you only needed 2 Republicans to stand up to stop this in the House. And so 2 Republicans at least will lose their seats because of this. And so will it start imploding? Yeah, because they were put there by the people, and they're supposed to be for the people and of the people, but they are not. They are bending the knee to really someone that has, so many conflicts of interest and self-interest that's just not how the government is supposed to run. So I would agree with that. And to be honest with you, there's a piece of me that agrees with James Carville. That, you sit back and you let the Republican Party take responsibility for what's going on. And Amy Klobuchar, Senator Klobuchar, said that. At 4 a.m., they're saying, okay, what about 10 million? No, we don't want, we want tax breaks for those people. What about 100 million, 500 million? They want those tax breaks. Get them on the record and let the record reflect that this was of their doing. They have a trifecta, the White House.
Right.
They've got the House.
There's
they
no
have
one
the
to blame
Senate.
for anything
There's
right
no
now.
one else to blame. They arguably have the judiciary, right, with this conservative-leaning Supreme Court. In my view, I think there's a part of the Democratic Party that when you have these votes, they need to hold the line, and everybody needs to vote together against some of these just terrible laws that are going to affect everyday people. I think there's something to that.
We talked about Jane Fonda on the show today, defending the word woke. It's something you've been doing on the show for a very long time. And we've been talking about DEI initiatives a lot on our show. What is the biggest misconception in your mind about DEI? Because I have to be honest, I'm not surprised at the actions that were taken. I'm surprised that it's trickled into the private sector so quickly.
My understanding of diversity, equity, and inclusion is not that, there's this myth of a lack of meritocracy, that people that are diverse, that are getting these opportunities are less qualified than those people that should be in those positions. And let's be clear, they're talking about minorities. Minorities shouldn't be in these positions, and they're only getting these positions or only getting into elite colleges because of their race. But what's interesting to me about it is they're getting rid of, let's say, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the head of Brown. He's a 4-star general, but they're replacing him with a 3-star general white man. Why is he more qualified than the 4-star general? I mean, that's the easiest thing. Someone that has 4 stars is more qualified than someone that has 3 stars. And they are, I think, to be clear, getting rid of him because he's a black man. Now, the real truth about diversity, equity, and inclusion is it's not about hiring people that are less competent. It's about giving the most competent people an opportunity at it. For example, I was part of the Department of Justice Honors Program. That's how I got my first job with the Department of Justice Antitrust Division. It is a fully merit-based program. And I would not have had that opportunity but for the fact that they were looking at other pools of people. In particular, they were looking for people that were bilingual, and I happen to be bilingual. That was very helpful because I acted as a translator sometimes for the Antitrust Division. That being said, they just got rid of the honors program because they called it a diversity initiative program. You can't even apply to the program unless you've met a certain GPA standard.
Right.
That's purely merit. And so I think what this is about is really the myth of meritocracy.
Which is something you've talked about for years.
Yeah, there's a myth of meritocracy in this country, and it's never been a meritocracy. It's been an ethnocracy, actually. It's been about white, mediocre men that are given opportunities. It's about legacy admissions. It's you don't have to be excellent. You have to be average if you're white. If you are black, your average must be excellent in order to compete. I don't want to rely on the benevolence of a Donald Trump, who the Justice Department found wouldn't let black people live in his buildings. I don't want to rely upon the benevolence of an Elon Musk who grew up in apartheid South Africa. I don't want to rely on that. I want the opportunity to compete. Just the opportunity to compete. And that's what diversity, equity, and inclusion programs are. And by the way, studies show that those companies that embrace diversity, equity, inclusion do better. They make more money. People are happier there. They're reflective of the country. And so anyone that isn't, in my opinion, supportive of diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, I think they either don't lack the facts or they don't care.
Well, I would say
other people.
The View as a platform was built on diversity.
Of opinion.
Yeah. I would say yes, but opinion of age, of backgrounds.
Yes.
And I think that's something that
it brings real value.
It's the strength of the show.
Of course it is. Of course it is. Yeah. And certainly we get punished for talking about our lived experience. I'm called a race baiter and all of this stuff. But this is my lived experience, and it's the lived experience of thousands and thousands and thousands of our viewers.
Yes.
And so again, when I hear someone say I'm against diversity, equity, and inclusion, it gives me great pause because it makes me feel that you don't want diversity, equity, and inclusion. And the Republican Party and the conservatives have done a great job of bastardizing that term. And I think it needs to be retaken and explained.
All right. Now we're going to, as you mentioned before, that we're an opinion show that is fact-based.
Yes.
Today we're going to move a little bit into rumor because this is a rumor I'd like to discuss with you. According to a report in the U.S. Sun, the Super Bowl champions, the Philadelphia Eagles, your team for this season.
Yes, I was the only host, by the way.
You were. And by the way,
winners.
congrats again on catching a pass from Jalen Hurts
In
last
heels.
week.
Yes.
In heels.
It was
Well done.
over my head, actually. And
You almost weren't going to go out for it.
I grabbed it from the air,
Yep.
by the way. Okay.
When I originally asked
Like a
you, you said you're not
superstar.
going to do it, and you did it anyway.
I did.
Because you're competitive. And we don't have confirmation from this, but the rumor is that the Philadelphia Eagles are not going to the White House this year. So
Had they not gone before?
I believe there was a thing in 2017 or 18 when they won.
They didn't go.
And they didn't go.
Okay.
We don't have confirmation. It's different players now, some of them. We don't have confirmation from the team again, so it's just speculation. But what do you think of this? I mean, this would be the first test of how people are responding to President Trump in this world. I think probably the Kansas City Chiefs would have gone because there's some Trump fans there. I don't know that everyone in the Eagles feels one way or the other about it. Part of me does think like it's a shame for the team not to get a chance to celebrate in the nation's capital in the White House because of this. So what do you think? You would...
I think it's a personal choice if you want to go or not.
Right.
And so if you have a couple of the players that don't want to go, I think they don't go. If you want the coach not to go, you don't go. But that team is a very close team. So if they don't go, I would imagine that it is a team decision. Well, and I'm okay with that.
I mean, is there a version where you could be okay with receiving that kind of accolade from someone you don't agree with, like you don't with the president?
I speak with my dollars. I'm someone that is a person of action. And so I could see not going someplace where I feel and believe deeply in my heart and in my soul and in my spirit that that place would be unsafe for people in my community, and that my community would be unwelcome there. And I would probably, in solidarity with communities that are affected by this administration's policies, I could see myself not going.
Right, and we just recently, I was there with you at the White House for the Christmas party. So
yes, I went to that.
At least you got it in then.
I've been to the White House many times.
Right.
I'm pretty sure we're not going to get invitations
I would think
for
that's
this
probably
administration.
Unlikely.
And I honestly think that this administration is doing so many terrible things and affecting so many people's lives, people that I love, people that I don't know but still care about. I don't know that I would attend.
We had your friend, producer, and director Will Packer with us.
He's
last
great.
week. That was another great interview.
He's great.
And he talked about the art of the pivot, which
Yes.
is something we talked to some of the other hosts about.
Yeah.
I hear you were just talking to your son about this.
I sure was.
Tell me about that.
Gabriel's about to graduate from college, and he's been working on, he's very entrepreneurial, and he's been working on a nonprofit business. And he's gotten great accolades. He's won a presidential award. He's gotten grants and funding, and he feels the need to stick with it, even though he has another really great idea, and that he can possibly get some funding for. Again, he's an entrepreneur, and I've tried to explain to him that sometimes you incubate an idea, you build a business. And if it's sound enough, you can pass it on to someone else, and you can pivot. And pivoting for me has been critical in my career.
Sure.
And you have to give yourself permission to pivot. I mean, if you think about it, I graduated from college, and I wanted to be a journalist, and I was, interviewing. I didn't really get anywhere. I was a waitress at Fridays with a college degree and graduated, with really great grades. And I was serving Adobe platters to people. I felt like I learned a lot from that until I got fired. And then I pivoted and I became a paralegal. And then I learned, wow, I kind of do like the law. Maybe that's something I should do. And I pivoted again from the law back into journalism. And I pivoted from, anchoring kind of like a straight news show to doing legal analysis to The View, to writing books.
I was going to say, that's a big pivot.
To owning a production company. I have pivoted over and over and over again. I've learned more from my failures than my success, but I've learned the most from being able to pivot. And I love that about Will Packer and I. As you know, we've been friends for a long time, and he is one of the best cheerleaders when you are in need of a pivot. I mean, he's counseled me many times on the pivot.
It's
we've
hard.
known each other for such a long time.
You have to be brave, I think, to make a real pivot.
It takes courage.
Yeah.
It takes bravery. It takes support, family support, friend support.
Sometimes financial support.
Sometimes financial support, but it can be done. And I have found, at least, when I have pivoted, I've always pivoted to something better.
That's great.
So I'm hoping that my son will follow my advice. I don't know that he will. But the art of the pivot is what most successful people will tell you. And I will tell you that I spoke to Mark Cuban about it, and he agrees with me.
Yeah, I think he knows a little bit about that.
And he does.
Yeah.
He does. And he has counseled my son.
That's great.
I'm hoping that with two people saying yes.
Yeah, if he's not going to listen to you, hopefully he'll listen to billionaire Mark Cuban.
Like pivot,
Yeah.
dude. It's cool. It's fine.
I want to go back to something from the Weekend View last week.
Oh,
and
gosh.
And speaking of the Weekend View, which is a lot of fun, I keep
It
hearing
is.
from people that don't know where to find it. Just go to any streaming service.
Yeah.
At the times the Weekend View airs. I think it's 7:30 and 9:30.
And 9:30.
And on Saturday and Sunday, and you can find it on ABC News Live.
And on YouTube.
It's
too.
on YouTube afterwards.
Yeah,
yes,
my
so-
family and my friends love it, actually. So
It's a lot of fun.
I've been surprised at like how it's been
I like
received.
it because you guys are always a little punchy in a way
We're
that makes it
so
more.
tired
Yeah.
by that taping that we're a little out there.
But it's a lot of fun. All right, so something you said on it, we did the coffee with our younger self trend.
Oh, yeah.
And you mentioned during that you slept through an audition with Spike Lee.
I did.
We needed to follow up on this.
Oh my gosh.
What happened
Can you
here?
believe I did that?
No,
So
it's so out of character for you.
it's
Not
so-
sleeping in because you do sleep in, but
so
that's a big
out
meeting.
of character. Well, I had I met Spike.
Mm-hmm.
It was a blind audition, and I auditioned for a very small part in Jungle Fever. And I was like,
that old movie.
I was like, I'm not gonna get that. And then like I get a call back, and I'm like, what? What time is it? Blah blah blah. I'm like, okay. I made the mistake of going out with my friends the night before, and I drank too much, and I just like, this is before we had iPhones with
Right.
alarms and
But
stuff.
still.
And I just slept past it.
Wow.
I just didn't show up. And I learned from my then little agent that I had the job. Like I literally had the job. I was going to get there and rehearse the lines. It was a small enough part, and we were going to film that day.
Oh my
And they were
gosh.
waiting for me, and they filled it with like some random person that was there. And I'm not saying she's a big superstar or anything, but gosh, like it was one of my missed opportunities.
It's a pivot not taken.
It's a pivot not taken. And I spoke to Spike about it.
I was going to ask.
I did. And he was like, that was you? And I was like, it was.
Wow.
It was, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
He had cast me in it. And I slept through it.
Wow, that's crazy. Did you
Isn't
want to
that
be an
crazy?
actor? I know you were in that
Well,
world a little bit.
I was a theater minor, and I was pretty good at it. And then I don't know.
You've had a few chances.
I screwed
so
up.
Yeah.
I screwed that one up. But I've done some. I've been on Power, and I've done Girls Trip with Will Packer.
Big star.
And I've been asked to do something else that I'll talk to you about later.
Ooh. You
So
can't have off.
I need off for it. But yeah, it had always been something that I wanted to do. And I don't know. I screwed up probably like the best opportunity.
Oh, well, it's
I've
it's a good
pivoted.
story. You've done pretty well.
I've done fine,
and that's a good
and Spike
story.
forgives me.
Okay, well, there you go.
I was just in one of his documentaries.
Yeah, that's
so.
a good story
Can you
at dinner.
believe I did that?
No, it's really out of character.
It's so out of character.
Yeah, for a big movement.
And I'm
big
so
movie,
I'm
yeah.
so driven.
Yeah.
So I was.
I feel like you would have an internal alarm clock that would cut through.
I always wake up really early.
Yeah.
It was the partying with poor influences. I still have those same friends.
Was this when you were dating Cockroach?
No. Yes.
It was.
It was around that time.
Cockroach from Cosby Show.
Yeah, it was around
All right.
that time.
Thank you for joining me today, Sonny. Every day we find out more about your sordid past.
Oh, man.
Tomorrow I'll be back with Sarah Haynes, and we will see you then.